Alicia Jagasar, Empress Ajay, the Believe Artist Collective, St. Joseph Convent Choir, the National Parang Orchestra, and many more. John Thomas's For the Love of Liberty, celebrating our Diamond Jubilee of Independence.
This is TTT Live for Local.
Dr. the Honourable Nyan Gadsby-Dolly, Minister of Education, the Honourable Lisa Morris-Julian, Minister in the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Lenore Batiste-Simmons, Permanent Secretary, Dr. Peter Smith, Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Joy Griffith, Director, School Supervision, Mr. Corey Belfon, Director, Information, Communications and Technology Division, Ms. Kamini Bagalu, Acting Director, Division of Educational Research and Evaluation, members of the media, other staff of the Ministry of Education, good morning and welcome to this morning's media conference where the executive of the ministry will share with the national population matters relating to the opening of Term 1 2022-2023, which takes place on September 5th, 2022. My name is Rodel Phillips Simmons, Corporate Communications Manager and your host for this morning's press conference. We will have presentations from the executive, after which media questions will be entertained. I now hand you over to Dr. the Honourable Nyan Gadsby-Dolly, Minister of Education.
Thank you, Rodel, and good morning. Welcome to the members of the national community who are viewing and listening this morning. Thank you to the media for being here. School reopens for academic year 2022-23 on September 5th, 2022, and the physical attendance of all staff and students at ECCE, that's the early childhood, the primary and the secondary level, is expected. To recap, we have in the public system 208 early childhood centers, 476 primary schools, 134 secondary schools, 12 special schools, and 9 post-secondary or tertiary institutions. Therefore, we're looking at the return of approximately 305,000 students and just over 13,100 teachers. This press conference will outline details of school operations in the academic year that's coming up and give important updates to the national community with respect to infrastructural repairs, the Ministry of Education's 60th Independence Celebration initiatives, the Vacation Revision Program, revised school operations, the revised National School Discipline Matrix, and the digital transformation agenda of the Ministry of Education. I now turn over to PS Lenore Batiste-Simmons, who will introduce the speakers and their contributions.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy 60th anniversary to the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. As we prepare for all students to return to regular classes for Term 1 of the upcoming academic year 2022-2023, I thank the ministers, my colleague, Acting Permanent Secretary Ms. Michelle Ann Thomas, CEO Dr. Peter Smith, the staff of the ministry, and of course our stakeholders, who together have brought us to this juncture. It is with a great sense of relief that I welcome all our students at all levels, including tertiary, back to school. I have with me key members of the executive team who will outline the systems and procedures in place to ensure the safety of our staff and students. Dr. Peter Smith, Chief Education Officer, will provide information on health and safety protocols in schools, present a summary report on the recently concluded Vacation Revision Program. He will also provide a synopsis of the revised operations of the 26 schools for academic years 2022 through 2027 and a revised school discipline matrix. Ms. Joy Griffith, our Acting Director of School Supervision and Management, will give us the status of infrastructural repairs and furniture provision at schools. Ms. Kamini Bagalu, Acting Director of Educational Research and Evaluation, will report on requests for transfers and reviews in respect of SCA 2022 and the state of preparations for the conduct of SCA 2023. Mr. Corey Belfon, our Director of ICT, will discuss the digital transformation agenda of the Ministry of Education. The Honourable Lisa Morris-Julian, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, will speak to the activities of the MOE in commemoration of the 60th anniversary celebrations. And the Honourable Dr. Nyan Gadsby-Dolly, Minister of Education, will share updates with respect to the Ministry's music and arts program and school competitions. And finally, she will deliver the closing remark. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Our CEO, Dr. Peter Smith.
Good morning. In preparation for the reopening of schools, the following health and safety protocols are in place. 1. Entry protocols will continue. Masking. Requirement for symptomatic school personnel to be removed from the school population. The ability of staff and students to return to physical school population without the need for a negative COVID test once they are not displaying flu-like symptoms, and the requirement for staff and students who are attending school physically while displaying flu-like symptoms to present a negative COVID test, or in case of chronic medical conditions, a letter from a medical doctor at the start of the school year. Okay, and just to remind that masking is necessary but not mandatory, and those guidelines are contained in the guidelines for operations of schools for the academic year 2022-2023, Term 1. With regard to the vacation revision program, just to recap, the VRP 2022 was designed to address learning loss in mathematics and English language arts as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. During the VRP, students would have been provided with instruction in the 2 subjects as well as psychoeducational support to both students and parents from the Student Support Services Division. In addition, breakfast and lunch were provided. It was anticipated that approximately 9,000 students would have attended the vacation revision program, with approximately 600 teachers providing the instruction. Based on the applications, we would have had 2,700 from parents, and they were contacted via phone calls, WhatsApps, as well as emails. Approximately 1,900 students attended the vacation revision program, with 171 teachers providing instruction on a daily basis. This occurred in 33 secondary schools, and in terms of lunches, 26,660 lunches were distributed. In terms of breakfast, 26,870. To recap the activities, instruction occurred in mathematics and English language arts. In addition, there was the Turn Up campaign where influencers were invited to have a session with the students. This activity also would have assisted our students in transitioning from primary to the secondary school level. As part of the ongoing activity, pre-tests and post-tests were administered, and these were designed to provide additional information on the effectiveness of the program and to do some follow-up studies as part of this 5-year program. This report is to be done for Cabinet by the end of September, early October. It is anticipated that this program will be an annual feature between 2023 to 2027, with possible expansion to other geographic areas if required. I now move to the revised operations of the 26 secondary schools for academic years 2022 to 2027. Cabinet has approved the MOE's approach in increasing student performance and the equity in educational opportunity. Following on from the VRP, the Vacation Revision Program, which provided additional opportunities for students to learn fundamental skills, the MOE will place increased focus on providing resources, support, and monitoring to schools which have a Form 1 intake of students achieving less than 50% in the secondary entrance assessment. 26 schools have been placed in Phase 1 of this program of the revised school operation, which begins in academic year 2022-2023. Permit me to list out those schools: Shogunas North Secondary, Shogunas South Secondary, Carapachima West Secondary, Sandy Grande Secondary, Manzanilla Secondary, Brazil Secondary, Valencia Secondary, Diego Martin North Secondary, East Mukurapo Secondary, Mukurapo West Secondary, Success Laventil Secondary, Mova Laventil Secondary, Tranquility Secondary, Southeast Port of Spain, Moruga Secondary, Princestown East Secondary, Barataria North Secondary, Eldo East Secondary, Five Rivers Secondary, Eldorado West Secondary, Malik Secondary, San Juan North Secondary, Point Fortin West Secondary, Siparia East and West Secondary, and Union Claxton B. The adjustments to the school operations in these 26 schools include a consistent program of training of teachers and school management throughout the academic year, assignment of up to 3 learning support assistants to the schools to be used to assist teachers in the execution of their duties. The exact nature of the assignments will vary according to the needs of the school and the principal. Timetable adjustment to the operation of the school-based intervention team, where principals, senior teachers, student support services division personnel, and school supervision and management personnel meet fortnightly to look closely at student comportment, achievement, and challenges, giving teachers the opportunity of early referral of students to the Student Support Services Division, and giving administrators the opportunity to offer classroom support to teachers where required. The reinforcement and teaching of positive behaviors to parents and students through a consistent and timetable program of life skills sessions and motivational speeches delivered by prominent and influential citizens. All arms of the Defense Force and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service have been written to for their collaboration in supplying officers to speak to the school children. In addition, the Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, and Cadet Force have been written to, and discussions have taken place regarding the establishment of these paramilitary organizations at the school. Curriculum adjustments which include the requirement for registration of all students who scored 50% and under in SEA 2022 for the lower secondary proficiency examination, formerly called the Primary School Leaving Certificate Examination, in July 2024 at the end of Form 2, giving the students 2 academic years to gain the minimum certification required and recognized by the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for employment in the public sector. Principals will be so advised via circular memorandum. The curriculum taught by schools with students scheduled to sit the lower secondary proficiency examination in 2024 should give ample opportunity to develop fundamental numeracy and literacy skills which the students may not have mastered at the primary level. This covers mathematics, English language arts, social studies, and science. Additionally, the formal incorporation of life skills and TVET, or technical vocational subjects, into the timetable from the Form 1 level has been accounted for. MIC and YTEP will be engaged to augment the emphasis on TVET programs at the school. These discussions are already ongoing. A curriculum pathway for students to achieve the lower secondary proficiency examination in Form 2, then move on to the achievement of CXC Math, English, and at least 3 other subjects, including TVET, by Form 5, has been outlined to principals in the guidelines for revised school operations 2022-2027. The system also allows for flexibility in the number of subjects pursued at the CSEC and CVQ levels so that students' potential will not be circumscribed. There will also be the possibility of some students being allowed to spend an extra year at secondary school to complete their studies if required. A special project involving significant restoration of the physical infrastructure at these schools will be considered by the Cabinet. This will require a separate or dedicated source of funding outside of the usual allocation to the Ministry of Education for annual infrastructural repairs. The areas requiring a critical attention are the science and technical labs and equipment, sporting fields, electrical, plumbing, and sewer upgrades, vapor, specialist rooms, roofing, ceiling, perimeter fencing. This cost for the schools in Phase 1 is estimated at over $120 million. I now move to the revised school discipline matrix. The full return to physical school in April 2022 was accompanied by much school violence and indiscipline, much of it in the public domain shared via social media. The community police of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service have been closely collaborating with the Ministry of Education in 17 schools, doing patrols both in schools as well as in the vicinity of schools at the end of the school day. The presence of the officers has been very effective in clamping down on school violence, and our partnership continues in academic year 2022-2023. The multidisciplinary team that worked with the MOE on this initiative includes Ministry of National Security, Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Ministry of Social Development, and Family Services, Ministry of Sport and Community Development, the Tobago House of Assembly, and of course the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Community Police. The report was submitted and the recommendation for the revised National School Discipline Matrix is currently before the Cabinet for its consideration. The revised National School Discipline Matrix lists consequences for minor, major, and severe infractions and elucidates how teachers and administrators are to deal with first-time and repeat offenders. In addition, the matrix is intended to be used in conjunction with the positive behavior matrix and preventative and reinforcement strategies. This broader approach is intended not only to address negative behaviors, but explicitly teach positive behaviors, expose students to positive behavioral strategies, and provide much needed assistance. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Regarding the status of infrastructural repairs and furniture provision at schools, schools supervisors identified 377 schools with urgent infrastructural needs. Field officers of the EFPPD assigned to school districts prioritized 130 of these projects thus far for infrastructural work during the vacation period based on the available $45 million for school repairs. These works are presently ongoing at schools with MTS as project managers. All plumbing, sewer, and electrical emergencies which may occur during this week and next week will also be attended to as priority. As is normal practice, MTS will work with contractors to ensure that where a project is carded for completion beyond September the 5th, the critical aspects of the project will be addressed firstly, allowing schools to operate, whilst the other aspects of the projects are completed on afternoons and weekends as required. Once the critical repairs to schools are completed, other projects identified would be taken as priority. With regard to furniture delivery, 18,290 pieces of furniture were delivered to 100 secondary schools, and 3,222 pieces of furniture are being delivered to 130 primary schools currently. Tenders have gone out for an additional order of school furniture, and the bids are currently being evaluated. Thank you.
Good morning. The results of all reviews for SCA 2022 have been received from the Caribbean Examination Council and distributed to all candidates. The transfer process is still ongoing, though most approved transfers would have been effective, some on the basis of reviewed results. Most parents would have been contacted, and this process will be ongoing for at least the next 2 weeks as the last of the requested transfers are approved. The SCA 2023 assessment will be held on Wednesday, March 29, 2023. The period of application for concessions for the SCA 2023 was April to June 30th, 2022, and is therefore closed. The application period was pulled up to allow parents to be notified earlier of the decision with respect to the granting of the concessions. The SCA 2023 registration period for public and private primary schools will be from 12th of September to the 11th of November 2022, and parents are asked to take careful note of this date. Please ensure that all arrangements are made for the registration of your children, especially private candidates, and the registration period for private candidates will be from September 14th to October 14th, 2022. Please note that students who are in Standard 5 and their birth date falls within the period 1st September 2010 to August 31st, 2012 are eligible to sit the SCA 2023. Students born after August 31st, 2012 are not eligible. SCA 2023 results will be available online on the MOE's SCA Results portal. No individual results will be printed for distribution. Those parents who are unable to access results at home can use the primary school and district offices to access the online results. Secondary schools will not require a physical copy of the SCA results. However, parents will be able to download a PDF document and print a copy of the results slip if they so desire. Thank you.
Good morning. The vision of the digital transformation of the Ministry of Education is the efficient development of globally competitive citizens. 13 projects have been identified for implementation by 2027. The school learning management system, the student management system, an e-book platform, IRIS workforce management implementation, literacy and numeracy adaptive learning platform, open educational resources, the National Online Open School, student digital literacy, the school issue management system, e-testing, quick response ID cards for students, device provision for staff, teachers, and students, and a scholarships/bursaries management platform. 11 of these are currently or at the implementation stage. Just to share a few updates with respect to these areas, the LMS and SMS, 70 schools were involved in a pilot to refine the updated SMS and LMS platforms. Student data required for the creation of e-classrooms on the LMS is being uploaded to the SMS by these 70 schools, and e-classrooms are being created for teachers. This process is complete for 50 schools, and the next step will be both teacher and student training for engagement on the e-classrooms. This will be coordinated by the Education Technology Unit, whose specific role and function is the development, management, and maintenance of the LMS and digital curriculum resources. A data entry firm is currently being engaged to complete the input of data into the SMS for the remaining primary and secondary schools, over 550 of them, to facilitate the phased creation of e-classrooms for all primary and secondary teachers. The e-book platform and numeracy adaptive learning solution have both been approved by Cabinet, and the Ministry of Education is currently working with iGovTT on the procurement exercise. With regard to the National Online Open School, the continuation classes of the MOE, which cater mainly to students repeating CSEC subjects that they would have recently attempted while enrolled in school, will be conducted in an online format from 2023. More details of this project will be explained in subsequent updates to the public, as applications for online tutors and students will follow the release of CXC results expected in early September 2022. Device provision. The fundamental tools of digital transformation are digital devices and access to the internet. 7,000 additional laptops have been received and are currently being prepared for distribution to students and teachers. This, of course, is in addition to the over 40,000 devices distributed in the last 2 academic years. The contracted supplier DigiData has completed installation of network infrastructure hardware and wireless access points so that all secondary schools in Trinidad and Tobago now have internet access throughout their administrative areas, common areas, and libraries. This is intended to facilitate e-testing and the digitization of school records via the SMS platform. In addition, UNICEF has provided funding for 14 rural schools to be provided with access throughout the school compound, and all should be completed by early September. UNICEF has committed to providing funding for the outfitting of 14 more schools in the upcoming academic year. TAT, the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, has also worked with the MOA and with ISPs to provide internet access to 48 rural primary schools. This project has been completed. With regard to e-testing, all secondary schools have done a recent survey with respect to readiness for e-testing, and an action plan for making schools e-testing ready is being formulated. However, for January 2023 CXC exams, an e-testing pilot will be implemented. Students volunteering to participate in the pilot will write paper 1 examinations only in digital format at selected venues in each district. More detailed information will be given about this initiative early in September 2022, when registration for CXC January 2023 examinations is advertised. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Minister Morris-Julian, who will give us some information about our 60th anniversary celebration.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, I would like to thank the 60th Anniversary Committee, led by the Honourable Camille Robinson-Regis, for giving Ministry of Education the opportunity to celebrate the 60th anniversary. First, we have an essay competition for both primary and secondary schools, where we'll be exploring the theme of independence as well as republic, because we are celebrating along with the committee from Independence Day till Republic Day. Secondly, we have a patriotism booklet for students, where we will be publishing and printing through the government printry the national anthem, the national motto, and all the various civics that we believe that all schools should have access to and all students should be familiar with. And of course, we will not forget our little ones, ECCE. They will be presenting their own local alphabet, where you can hear unique terms such as B for Batimamzel. And they will also be doing the national anthem, as well as the pledge. And that is not the least of it. We also have our gift to the nation, a vision of the Minister of Education, a video production featuring all the primary school students of the country for September 24th in video format, where we'll be celebrating Independence to Republic Day. I'm also happy to report that we will also be appointing local school boards for this academic year. And as usual, from the Ministry of Education, we are always pleased to be part of the process, and we look forward to celebrating our 60th Diamond Jubilee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Morris-Julian. With regards to music and arts, the Ministry of Education is cognizant of the importance of music and arts, and during the last 2 years, we have had the music program operating virtually as it could. At this time, we are contemplating the revision of this program, looking at what has happened through the years. We've had some discussion with our stakeholders, and so before the end of September, we will present to Cabinet the vision for the new music and arts program with an emphasis on our primary schools, and so that should come before the national public in a short while. In addition to that, the communications department as well as the curriculum department will be launching for this academic year 3 competitions in our secondary and primary schools. I'm sure the ECCE may get in on it as well, and these focus on our agriculture, our environment, as well as our visual and performing arts. So 3 competitions in these 3 areas will be launched throughout the academic year, and some more information will come from that so that we can all ensure that our children take part in these competitions. As we focus on food security, eating what we grow, growing what we eat, and encouraging our children to do that, as we focus on our footprint as individuals and as a country in the environment, and to place focus on the environment, and of course, as we develop our students' competencies, not just in the academics, but in the visual and performing arts, so that our students are well-rounded and holistic. I want to thank Minister Morris-Julian our PSs, our CEO, heads of divisions, and the staff of the MOE for their commitment to the task ahead of us as we go into a new academic year. I want to assure the public that the ministry is working to amend our system so that we deliver quality public service in all areas to our national community. 60 years of independence means that 60 years ago we said to the world that we can manage our own affairs, and a critical aspect of that is ensuring that we produce the professionals that will run our country, and we've been doing that for 60 years. So therefore, we have been producing our country leaders, our industry professionals, and homegrown talent has led this country for the past 60 years. And it attests to the fact that even though our education system may not be perfect, it certainly holds great value and potential. I'm sure all of us sitting here have been a part of our education system, and we are quite proud of how we would have developed. I want to thank our education stakeholders for showing up to every single meeting all throughout the holidays and contributing their valued input, their experience on the myriad of projects and programs that the ministry is responsible for. As we head into this new academic year that will be fraught with its own challenges, we look forward to a continued collaboration. I want to thank our village. In this ministry, we say it takes a village. I want to thank our village, and that comprises our corporate sector and our civil organizations for their investment in our education sector. And that is all to the benefit of the children, who are our greatest resource. To every corporate citizen, I want to repeat the call that there is room for you to contribute to the Ministry of Education's programming, and if you are so minded, as I expect you would be, we ask you to contact the ministry's Adopt a School initiative at 622-2181, extension 2423, or adopt a school at ministryoфeducation.gov.tt, and we will be putting these things on our website, so it will be very clear how you can access the Ministry of Education's Adopt a School program to help. I want to thank our teachers and our school administrators. We were served lemons in 2020, but many of you gave yeoman service to make lemonade out of that, again, to the benefit of our students. And though things are difficult, we have benefited from the commitment and the dedication of our officers, and our children have benefited, and as a nation, we are grateful. I want to thank our students, our parents, for their willingness to work with us during difficult times. It has not been easy, and they have had to adapt to new processes, new procedures, and they have done so, in most cases, admirably. So I want to convey my thanks. And as we end today, I want to make a special appeal to parents. I want to ask us as parents to uphold the standards of behavior in our homes. The first, or the incubator for school and discipline is the home. And if our children are clear that we will not stand for certain types of behaviors at home, then they will be less inclined to do them in our schools. Our schools are places of learning, safety, and we ask our parents, we cannot do it without you. We ask you, please, to uphold the standards of behavior for your children, so that what we do in the schools will be replicated at home, and our country will benefit from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Ministers and Executive. We now go to questions from the media. We will take one question per media house and then a second round of questions, time permitting. Before you ask your question, please state your name and media house and then pose your question to the head table. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Chester Sambrano, Guardian Media. I have a few questions, but since I'm getting one, I'll hope for my next round. I'll start with Minister Dr. Nyan Gadsby-Dolly. You just mentioned teachers and paying special thanks to them, but this morning tutor would have, on a morning interview, would have advised teachers to stay home on day one as a result of salary negotiations. How do you respond to that call?
Tutor would have to do what they believe best. The school term runs from September 5th and it runs straight on to July of 2023. So we know that our teachers will do what is best for children, as is always the case, and that has nothing to do with tutor and their call and their agenda.
Hi, Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
given that the police patrols have had a positive impact on dampening the school violence, at least outside the schools, the incidence of that violence, would that become a mainstay moving forward?
We certainly are looking forward to the community police continuing their involvement in our schools. These police officers are the ones that run the police youth clubs, so they have been encouraging students not just to interact with them in the school setting, but also in the community setting. So we think it's a quite positive engagement, and we look forward to the continuation of that engagement.
Hi, good morning. Elizabeth Gonzalez from Newsday. With regard to the schools under repairs right now, could you give me an idea of how many schools are ready, have been completed, and how many are still under repair?
We have quite a number of schools still under repair, and those vary in magnitude. And so we expect that as many as will be complete will be done by the time school opens, and those that have to continue, they will continue on afternoons, weekends, as is the usual case.
Well, let me stick with you, Minister. I really wanted to ask the CEO, but I suspect you could answer the question as well. In terms of the vacation revision program, he mentioned 1,900 students, if I'm correct. One, how exactly did those students perform during this program? Meaning, are they ready for secondary school? And what's going to happen to the other 7,100, if my maths is correct?
So these students would have been administered a pre-test and a post-test. Those results are being analyzed now. However, we understand that 4 weeks of instruction, though it would have been important in engaging the students and reducing the learning loss that may have taken place were they not engaged, would not be enough to meet the needs of the students. And that's why we have instituted the revised operations of schools, so that the students who have scored under 50, they will be required to do what was formerly the primary school leaving. It's now the lower secondary proficiency examination. So they will do that in Form 2. So they have 2 years to acquire those fundamental skills. That examination does not only cover, it's not the SEA, it covers math, English writing, English language, as well as social studies and science. So that's a broader exam. So those students will have to write that in Form 2, giving them 2 years to develop these fundamental skills. And from there, with the introduction of the CPQs and so on in Form 1 going up, from that level of Form 2, they'll be entering into the Form 3 to 5 level, where they are now going to be attempting, most importantly, the CXC Math and English, having gotten that foundation, and then whatever CPQs that are coming up there, giving room for them to also do CSEC subjects, HSB, integrated science, social studies, and there are other things that they can do. So we are not looking, the 4-week program was intended to give them that immersion immediately, but this is a 5-year program of revised operations, and it's not only curriculum change, it's also our approach with respect to motivational speaking for the students, ensuring that the school-based intervention team meets fortnightly in these schools. That team, and adjusting the the timetable to allow for those meetings within the school day, because those meetings are critical. They are not a part of the system that exists now, but it's observed mainly in the breach. So what we are saying is for the schools, those 26 schools that we have identified for this program, they are the ones where almost the entire cohort would have scored, some of them under 30%. So we are focusing on those schools, focusing on all their operations, training of the teachers, the changing of the curriculum, the adjustment of the timetable, that school-based intervention meeting that looks at classes, students who have challenges and so on for early referral to SSSD, assigning a dedicated school social worker and guidance counselor to these schools as well. So it's a program that spans quite a few areas, and it deals with the entire operations of the school, looking at it for a 5-year period. Phase 1 will be those 26 schools. As we move on, we will increase that, but across the board, the students who scored under 50% are required to be taught so that they can attempt in Form 2, the lower secondary proficiency examination, which allows them the time to develop those skills. In addition to that, that examination, that primary school leaving examination, which was called, that is the minimum qualification for government employment. So some of the lower level jobs, that's the minimum qualification. And what we have noticed in these schools as well, there's a high level of attrition from the schools. So we are trying to ensure that even if students fall away from the system, because compulsory education is only up to 16 years old, some students go into formal at 14 years old, 13 years old. So we are trying to ensure as well that if they happen to fall away, they will at least have that level of certification. But of course, we're hoping not for that to happen by encouraging the skills training and so on at a lower level of the primary school, of the secondary school, which our principals have told us to really engage our students and hold them. So that 4-week program was the start to keep them engaged. But there is a 5-year program that is dealing with these students and those that come up in the pipeline after them that would be similarly affected by the learning loss of 2020 to 2022.
Could we have some specifics, some detailed insight into the recommendations for the revised school discipline matrix, in particular where it concerns repeat offenders, please?
The National School Discipline Matrix is before the Cabinet, and so I'm not going to go into too much details about it, simply to say that it is building on what was there presently, but it's also incorporating different strategies, saying to schools that, listen, not only do we have to discourage negative behavior, so yes, suspension is in there, expulsion is in there, as they were before, but also included in that would be the restoration. Also included in that would be that schools have to now encourage positive behavior, putting up signage and so on in the different schools, and showing children how they are to behave, because what we have to recognize is that not all children know exactly what to do in all situations. So teaching of that, explicit teaching of positive behavior, that's why we've institutionalized the life skill in the timetable, that period for teaching of life skills. That is critical, and that will be done in all of 26 schools. Another part of that matrix speaks to reinforcing the positive behaviors, and that's what we would have done through the Turn Up campaign and the Vacation Revision program, where we have people coming in, speaking to the students. We've listened to MyLab students, so we've listened to them speak about how they felt seeing members of the Defense Force come and speak to them, how they felt that they could achieve that role modeling. A lot of our children don't have that. So that's why we've written to the Defense Force, to the Air Guard, to the Coast Guard, saying, come into our schools. And that's part of the revised discipline matrix, the reinforcement of positive behavior. So not just dealing with negative behavior, also teaching positive behavior and reinforcing and showing children how they can behave positively and showing them what they can achieve if they follow the footsteps just like others who may have faced similar challenges. So all of that is part of it, and it's before the Cabinet now for Cabinet approval.
Mr. gets the last question for this morning's press conference.
Hi, thank you very much. Such an honor. Minister, on a slightly different topic, one of my colleagues asked this question. I hope you can respond. MICIT is complaining of lead subvention and it's having a negative rippling effect across the board.
Yeah.
Can you respond to that?
Could we have that after the press conference? This one deals with the reopening of school and matters dealing with that. We're certainly willing to take that, but I can answer you off the record on that other.
I'm not sure if we got a budget for all of the school repairs and preparations for school reopening.
45 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today's press conference. Follow-up questions can be sent either directly to the Corporate Communications Department, or we can structure a follow-up interview with the Honourable Minister and the Executive. Thank you very much and have a pleasant, safe day.
And that's it there for the show. We would like to stay, but we got to go. You don't know. Yes, Olia. Later. Oh.